Okay, so I don't know what happened. I was recording earlier, and due to some troubleshooting, I don't know why, it, my whole podcast had to be started all over again. So I was talking about SBS. Um, as basically SBS made me feel uncomfortable because it was saying that due to people with disabilities that have, I guess, big bus, which I think I'm the only one with a physical disability, that they kept asking over and over and over again for me to wear a bra, get my hair done, stuff like that, because they felt like guys are not gonna be looking at me. If you're gonna go to your job, you don't want your boobies hanging out, and these types of comments are not supposed to have been made with the intention of making you feel bad. It was for the intention of bettering yourself, but this has been a journey that I've been on with them for a while. So due to that, partially due to those comments, and partially due to health reasons, I went and got a breast reduction, just to help me feel slightly more confident with clothing, undergarments, stuff like that. But also at the same time, just them saying, well, guys are going to be looking, and you don't want them to be looking at your boobs unless they are looking at them like that. Then that could be why they're saying that, but they should say that to a client. So Froghead also was saying that due to her being looking out for me, she tried to get me this job, but she also tried to want to harass the guy to hire me, so that she didn't look like she was doing something, because it's been over a year since I've been working with them, and the only jobs that they have ever done on me were these 98 internships. And since that last internship actually came out, they haven't been able to get me anything, so I think they were desperate, because the fact that they need to churn out a certain amount of clients actually getting jobs, and the one that they're having an issue problem with, due to being high functioning, but also just being part of the fact that I can outpace, probably outmaneuver a lot of the clients. They're saying that the guys would be looking and stuff like that, and I think also at the same time that they might want people to look at them, or maybe it make them feel uncomfortable when they were looked at. I don't know. I don't really care. It's not my thing. But I did leave that company because of their comments about me not being dressed appropriately, by me trying to show that women with big busts have to always pack it in, even if it doesn't fit, just to pack it in, because it shows that I wasn't trying to look decent, and my hair should be done, which I think an afro is okay. You don't need to have braids or weaves or whatever in our hair just to get a job interview. So with that, I also just typed in with people with this, because this is also part of the reason why I'm thinking that that's part of also the reason why I left, was because percentage rates wise, it's because I put in, if a disabled person percentage rate of getting a job for equal rights, what does that mean? What does that mean actually for those who are trying to gatekeep us? And it's saying here, an improved percentage rate of getting a job for equal rights for disabled people will mean that those who participate discrimination, right, perpetrate discrimination, are engaging in illegal and unethical actions with serious consequences. It indicates that discriminatory boundaries rather than genuine limitations are what have been preventing disabled people from achieving equal rights. So let's unpack this. So the only reason why we're being discriminated against and unethical actions, and the reason why they haven't gotten serious consequences, is because enough people are making it normalized for people like me, or from not achieving their potential. They're saying, okay, well, if she's disabled, she's no better than bagging groceries, or she's no better than sitting at home acting like she's doing something when she really isn't. those people on Capitol Hill, they can tell us how to run our rates, our stuff, so that they can benefit by getting more money, getting more housing for themselves, getting more cars for themselves, so that they can profit more and get more billions of dollars. So there's, rather than a genuine limitation, right, from people with disabilities that are implemented for achieving equal employment, it's also just as beneficial that they should be held accountable. However, I don't believe that they will be ever held accountable for anything in their life, because they feel like, well, people with disabilities always get, it's like children, right? If you can kill a child, you can kill a disabled person, right? So, legal ramifications, U.S. legal and state laws prohibit employment discrimination against people with disabilities, and improved hiring percentage would signal that these laws are being enforced effectively and the legal consequences for violators are severe. They're saying, prohibit legal discrimination against people with disabilities, but it's saying that it would signal, not that it is a signal, it would signal, meaning that they have a loophole. If they don't feel like a disabled person should get a job, then they're not going to allow that. But the key word here is would, right? So if we're going to dissect what this actually means, that U.S. federal and state laws should prohibit, but they're not going to, because they don't believe that the legal consequences for violators are severe enough, right? Just because they said, oh, well, she can't do this, so I fired her, or she can't do that, so I said no. And they'd be like, okay, well, she can't do it, she can't do it. Those who previously orchestrated employment for disability, for disabled people could face legal action and significant penalties. Could face, meaning when you could face ramifications for being a pedophile. They could make it where that the person who is part of the church and has been, doing illegal funds, right, for fraud, right, they could face fines, right, meaning that if they were ever caught, then yes, these ramifications would be in effect, right? But they're saying that by could and would, they're not actually stating that it can and it will, right? So there's lawsuits and damages. Employees can be sued. Employers can be sued by the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commissions or private practices for payback, emotional distress, and punitive damages. Okay, so I could actually go and get ramifications, right? I can go to being a legal consequence person. However, I'm not seeing how that would justify me and my benefit by the end of the day, because for me, it's going to take a long time just to get a lawyer to then put as much evidence as possible together, right? And then also to be able to state the action of even moving forward. So that could take years, months, if not years, and that's expensive. And yet, I've never seen a disabled person being a lawyer. I've never seen a person with a disability, that's physical or not, being told that they could be a paralegal, or they could be a president, or they could be a governor, or any part of the state that's higher up than what we are now. Because they don't believe that. They truly don't. They truly believe that, oh, well, she's disabled, so her agency will take care of her. Oh, yeah, no, that's not how it works, right? So, fines or fees, right? Federal laws allow for penalties up to $75,000 for the first offense and $150,000 for repeat violations. A lot of these companies should be going bankrupt, but they're not going to, because the fact is they can justify their actions because they can out-lawyer us, right? Most of the time, someone who gets discriminated against will not face repercussions. Why? Because the fact is, we don't have the means to go to, not just the means, but we don't actually have the support to do that. causes for the surgery. I will be probably fully able to move around by next week. So if you're seeing me on, because I'm still recovering. So let's see. Okay, so Center for American Crossing. Okay, so we're doing this first. Okay, so business and ethical implications, right? Beyond the legal issues, those who have stopped disabled people from getting jobs would face a new reality that invalidates their assumptions, meaning that they are going to assume that people with disabilities are not capable, but if they hire us and we can do the job, then that's going to squash their ideas of us being able to actually get something done, right? That we can actually work. So we can actually maybe do a deeper dive and maybe okay, so I was saying if a disabled person's percentage of getting a job or equal rights, what does that mean? It's saying when a disabled person has the equal right to a job, that means those who obstruct or prevent them from getting a job are breaking the law and undermining fundamental civil rights. But will they stop doing that? I don't believe that they would, right? So equal employment opportunity is legal protection, not a suggestion. The consequences of violating it can be severe. However, will it uphold in court, right? Legal and ethical meaning of those who discriminate without violating federal law and under ADA statutory decisions, right? Saying that it's illegal for somebody with a disability not to be able to work. This includes hiring, firing, promotion, pay, and training, job assessment. That we cannot be denied these things. However, we are still being denied these things, and will we still be able to afford these sort of discriminations against these types of people? I don't think so, right? So will we be able to find equal footing, equal ground? Well, if we can't even save children and cyclists from a flood, I don't think people with a disability is actually going to be able to get any more of what we're getting now. If people from the STEAM list, right, can actually get no sort of justice, right, for what has been done to them by a president who doesn't care about anybody but himself and wants so badly to be loved by the public, but is doing everything absolutely all wrong to get that love. Basically, and maybe trying to say, well, daddy didn't like me, mommy didn't like me. But is a Hispanic name, right? San Jose, San Carlos, right? San Diego, City, San, I forget what San means, but it's still a Hispanic name. It's an Indian Hispanic name. So again, mostly of California is named after something from Mexico or from the Native Americans, right? And so what do they like to do? Well, we want to squash anything that doesn't make us feel good because we don't actually want to better ourselves. We just want to take things and have everybody be underneath you because we feel like if you're not underneath us, then we don't feel good because we don't want to work for it. We want it to give it to us. However, once we're giving it, what we want, we don't actually like what the repercussions is because the fact is we didn't gain any knowledge from it. We just are saying, okay, silver platter, gold platter, gold platter, gold platter, silver platter. Oh, so now that I have the silver and gold platter, I want more. Not only do they want more, but they also want to say, well, we're no less smarter than them, and they're not stopping themselves from being creative. Why are they not stopping themselves from not wanting to be under our rule of thumb and just allow us to be top when we've been surviving outside of that oppression? So you're oppressing yourselves just so that you can, what? Keep oppressing yourself? Makes sense? Challenging harmful attitudes, right? Those who stop a disabled person from getting a job often do so based on unprofound fear, stereotypes, and prejudices, advice known as ableism, right? Equal rights policy directly challenges these narratives and discriminatory attitudes, right? Ignoring a moral obligation, ensuring equal employment rights is a matter of basic human dignity and fairness. Companies and individuals who discriminate against people with disabilities, job seekers, are violating their moral duty to treat people with respect and provide opportunities based on merit and not bias. And yet, I just wanted to go into the public sector as a receptionist, right? But I can't do that because most of the time they want people to also be out in the field as well. So they want you to do multiple forms of action and duty, right? Which means that we are still going to be handicapped in a lot of areas, right? So we're being still told that, oh, if you can't run after somebody, you can't do paperwork. How the heck does that work, right? Oh, if you can't, chase a criminal, then you should not be behind a desk. Again, that doesn't make any sense, right? What people with disabilities can do. If people believe their employment might be violated, we can take action. However, again, it's also partially why we can't get money from our lawsuits because the fact is they don't believe that people with disabilities actually should be provided money. Well, yes, they might be held accountable. We're still not going to get repercussions. We're not going to get told that by being disabled we're going to get money from it because A has to be coming from a third party because those who actually are telling us that we can't do anything properly obviously so by saying this, right, I'm thinking that there are so many things that should feel less than or than, right? Because there's two but one thing and something else. So basically, more skills they job one two have it in a corner. It's going everywhere you can to make sure that your that for someone like me who's working in a doctor, who really won't have this, I want to be able to stop being well, right, being, like, you know, someone who's saying, oh, well, because of this and that, I can't do it. So you're all set up the school where you are, right? This is what you call lifting somebody up with your resources, right? With your sort of your way of thinking is that it doesn't always fit the narrative, right? If your mom is able to say, "Oh, look, it's so easy for my daughter to do this," how hard did your mom work? Who did she talk to? Who did they talk to? How long did it take for you guys to wait to hear back from somebody? If it was automatic, then they were waiting from the very beginning for that person to talk to them, right? So how often do these conversations actually happen? Were the bullies involved? Was there obstacles involved? Was there, you know, so you're saying that, but yes, it's easy. It's not actually easy. Maybe easy for you because you've already had everything set up for you, right? So by you demonstrating how easy it is, you're also not saying what is behind the scenes. And the behind the scenes is, I have the resources, I also have the funds to get these people moving. Oh, I'll pay you $1,500 to get my daughter such and such, right? Or I can pay you, what, $400 or however much money you pay, right? Just for that person to be able to even see your son or your daughter, right? Okay. So again, you're skipping a step here. From the time, oh, I decided I wanted my daughter or my son to do this, that, and the other, to, oh, well, look, it's easy. We were able to do it too. No, because you didn't tell us the steps. You didn't tell us how long it took. You didn't tell us how your steps were, right? If you're going to brag and say, oh, well, my son or daughter can do it, okay, then tell us the steps. Tell us the ideas that came to you, how many people you've talked to, the resources and the funds, right, that you were able to get your daughter or your son, right, to get whatever you feel was necessary for your child to get to where they were, right? Because you can't come around and say, hey, look, it's easy for me. No, because sometimes people are born with more privileges than the others. However, that's not always the case. While yes, I was adopted, and I should have equal opportunity and equal rights, because there was a Caucasian lady who raised me. She has more resources and outmaneuver everybody if she actually knew how to put her cards right. However, she didn't do that. So what ends up happening now is I'm just as much as everybody else. The one paycheck short of being homeless. While yes, my money does go straight to my bills, I'm not paying any extra money for any extra particular thing, right? So by me saying that, you know, I do have a car, yes. Is that a privilege? Yes. Is that a right? No. But in LA, that sort of goes hand in hand, right? I do have a right to live somewhere. So I do have a right to pay my rent, however many times that I would need to keep living there, right? Do I have a right to also be able to hold animals? Yes, absolutely. Are they service animals? No. Are they support animals? Yes. Is that part of it being disabled? Possibly. However, there are some people that are allergic to cats and dogs, and they may not be able to also like animals at the same time. So that is a whole other issue that you guys have to work out yourself. However, being told that by you stating that it was easy for you to get to where you is, right? And we just went over that being gate kept, right? Or being discriminated against by base of bias, right? And misinformation about somebody with a disability. Well, it changed because as part of the rights, it's also part of the civil rights. The civil rights was freedom for transportation, freedom for, you know, like rights and liberty, right? Freedom of the pursuit of happiness, However, we're not happy, are we? Most of us are sick in the head, right? Because if you can kill a disabled person and you can kill a child, then you can kill everybody, right? So, under people's watchful gaze, watchful eyes, guess what? You're killing us and making a dirty buck for your, what, seventh house that costs, what, $7 million, and you're so proud that you have only a $7 million house. What does that even prove, right? You chasing money. It's the same as saying you're a hoarder, which is the same as you have a mental disability, because hoarding actually is a mental disability, right? Is an excuse? Maybe. But there are people that can work on it, right? If we truly want to. There are also those who say, well, disabled people can't do anything, so we have to do everything for them. Okay, so who actually gave you the right or the sort of opinion to actually put that out there, right? So then I will call you a Karen, right? Because the fact is, while making a statement like that, you have to come with facts, right? Well, this person is severely disabled, so she can't do anything, or he can't do anything. I'd be like, yeah, but I might have the same disability as that person, but, you know, I'm coming from a completely different angle. Oh, you have the same disability? Yes, I have the same disability. Oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, yes, of course not, because you don't surround yourself with people that actually will open up your damn brain. Open up your damn eyes, right? Why? Because you don't actually want to learn. You just want to say, well, if I'm just going to live my life the best way I can. I'm living it up. Okay, but so we can't live it up either? So you're saying that we can't own houses, cars, stuff like that. The veterans are probably the first to be able to get this land of the free, home of the brave shit. Instead, they're getting back to land of, I'm gonna F you over because I don't, want you to get it because I'm selfish and I'm greedy. So that's land of the stupid, right? It's, land of the stupidity, home of the stupid. So by me saying all this, there's a reason for that, right? Because if a veteran can't get a job, then what makes you believe that I can, right? So by them saying, oh, well, you're mental, I'm like, okay, well, you're mental too, because the fact of the matter is you're chasing cash, you're chasing this, you're chasing that, but really, you're not going to get it. Because the system was never made for you to get it. You're trying every means necessary to get on ample everything for what reason? That doesn't sound right to me. But with as much as we actually are capable of doing, so I'm still recovering, so I'm still slightly tired. But again, I'm doing my hustle here. We're actually going to see here. Okay, so by here, I'll see Bridge books. See? Condition new. You guys are so absolutely fantabulous. So I'm saying here that, please, while you're doing this loveliness here, Lady Alice does talk well, absolutely flawless in the way, so we're saying temporary unavailable, well, because they haven't sold out. Temporary unavailable, we receive fewer than one copy every 6 months. So I really need to see people wanting to read this, because the way that this is, it's not getting any sort of traction. I've written these books for you guys, and because you guys are not actually wanting to read it, and that's probably why it's out of stock. Okay, so as you can see here, yes, I've written this book for you guys, and here, because it's out of stock, because you guys are not reading it, so it's temporarily unavailable, because it's saying we receive fewer than one copy every 6 months. So you guys are not actually truly interested in my writing. I love that. I was like, that is such a good movie, such a good book. And you guys want to see a boy who fucking lives with a zingy on his head rather than actually having somebody talk about people with disabilities. So check. Seeing how Barnes and Nobles is doing. Let's see here. It's stock. Okay, so yeah, you guys are not curious at all. So rather read against outsiders than reading about people who have faith now than actually being talking about people with disabilities. Okay, so yes, okay, so it's eBay. That's 24. However, 160 shipping. Judy Bloom is right next to me. Hers is actually, oh yeah, it's hers is much more expensive. But Allison, so I'm not sure what to say about this. Well, yes, it's exciting for me to actually be able to tell you guys that I'm a writer. You guys are not loving my work. So, as an ebook, yes, 2022. We are so old. So yeah, yes. Going to keep writing, but it doesn't seem like you guys are actually curious about it or even want to be able to you guys want to be so all I can say is I'm proud to be able to have it on any platform. But better if you guys actually do it. And I can see where yeah, So on up here, I want it to be like the first of a lot of things. I want it to be the first disabled person to hold public office, or to be able to hold a therapist license and actually have practice. But it's gonna be kind of hard because the fact is, I keep being told no a lot of the times. So, with that being said, there isn't much that we are actually moving forward towards. Okay, so let's do, this is going to be, disabled persons. So let's do this. Share, so this is gonna be number 2, cold case files. So we're gonna do this.
My cousin Lisa hosted a dinner party for her mother's boyfriend, and she had several people attend that dinner.
Aunt Helen stayed after the party, helping clean up a little bit. And then Helen went home and then didn't hear from Lisa the next day or the next day, and was calling Lisa, and Lisa wasn't returning her calls, which is very unusual.
So we're going to say that fewer discussions advised, but also by actually being able to say that this is 2024, so shout out to AME. I actually wanted to be a part of AME. Well, actually AME, not AME, that's also part of it too. But we're trying to figure out why these types of people. So, like the first one of my cold case files was it actually being disabled and being, raped by her stepdad, right? And now this is going to be something slightly different. Still part of the same.
And then it went on to Monday, and Helen still hadn't heard from her. And then she started becoming a little bit concerned. Then Helen received a phone call from Lisa's work, and they indicated that Lisa hadn't been in work for a couple of days. And Helen became alarmed because that was completely out of character for Lisa. So, and Helen drove over to Diamond Heights. And when Aunt Helen arrived at Lisa's condo, there was police tape surrounding the building.
Neighbors had reported a foul odor coming from Lisa Valdez's unit.
Okay, so as I'm saying here, for someone who can actually be able to find or actually go over to this place of probably horrendous acts, somebody like Ashley, it was right, the crime was right in front of them, right under the nose, and eventually they were able to catch the person and put him behind bars. But if this person, right, was not able to be found, would it be considered a disabled case, right? Or is it just a regular case?
Manager noticed that the door was unlocked. He opened up the door and saw a body on the floor, basically right in front of where the door opens. and he quickly closed the door and called 911.
The manager had stumbled into a murder scene.
Lisa's body was on the floor at the foot of the bed. She was in a pretty advanced state of decomposition. There was such a significant amount of blood. It was plainly obvious that a violent struggle had taken place, that she had met a very violent death.
Struggle-wise, if someone were like me, who were, if I ever were in this position, I hopefully never be in this position, but if I was in this position, will I be able to defend myself? Because cerebral palsy, leg-wise, I am definitely not strong enough to fight off anybody. Arm-wise, yes. Leg-wise, absolutely not.
The neighbor reported that at about 1:30 early Sunday morning, they heard a loud thumping sound above, which would have been Lisa's apartment.
We knew that her mother had left around midnight, but the lack of forced entry into her apartment indicated that she had to have opened the door. There was no other explanation.
We could tell that there was no robbery or burglary involved, since her purse and her belongings, money and jewelry and whatnot, were not taken.
But on a closer investigation, detectives make an odd discovery. Part of Lisa's hair has been cut off.
A fixation that her killer must have had with her, taking a souvenir.
Okay, because of how she looked, right? The guy must have loved what she looked like, right? So that would be an obsession. An obsession is an unhealthy obsession with somebody who did not actually like them that. Again, I can't reiterate enough how like when Ed is fixated on one thing, that is an unhealthy obsession, meaning that you have a mental disorder or mental instability, right? So this guy who unalive, Lisa, probably mentally disturbed that she never probably looked his way or glanced his way because she was too busy being herself. So the guy doesn't like the fact that you're not even looking at them, right? Not even thinking about them, not even in their freaking orbit. That will cause them to feel like, well, she can look at me, probably because he feels ugly, disgusting, and whatnot, to this gorgeous person here, right? Then that would mean then that they have the right to what? Take a souvenir, which would mean that after they just wanted her, and so that is where the disability comes in. The disability came in because of his mental state, right? His mental state with his obsession with Lisa.
The people were terrified because it is a gated community. Someone can't just walk through the neighborhood and gain access to your dwelling. It was impossible.
Detectives believe that Lisa was murdered in the early hours of Sunday, May 17th.
And then on Monday, May 18th at 10 a.m., the housekeeper opened up the door and saw a body on the floor, naked. Heard the voice of a guy, and she thought she was interrupting an intimate moment with Lisa and another person. So she leaves, and then nobody finds Lisa until Wednesday.
The toilet seat in Lisa's bathroom became a focus of my attention because it was left raised. It was inconsistent with a woman living alone.
Inspector Schultes dusts the seat for fingerprints.
All of Lisa's friends and family provided prints, and that allowed me then to compare them to the prints off the toilet seat.
The fingerprints on the seat belonged to someone other than Lisa and her guests. Investigators believe they could belong to the killer.
When the blood droplets on one of Lisa's pillows was examined by the crime lab,
That's a lot of blood.
They were able to determine first that it was not Lisa's blood and that it was of an unknown male profile.
My mom was the last to see her alive. She told me that Lisa had a date the next afternoon.
We found out that Lisa was dating a person named Albert Cato, and she was going to have a date with him on Sunday, May 17th, 1998. But he canceled the date and said he was out to 3 o'clock in the morning with friends.
Police bring Albert.
Decided to cancel, and so because they decided to cancel, it could also be her too, that she feels like she, wanted to get back at the person for stiffing her. I mean, things happen.
Cato in for an interview. As soon as he arrives, they notice a jagged cut on his hand.
In a violent crime, we know that when someone is being stabbed repeatedly, that very often the person who's doing the stabbing cuts themselves in the act. And so the fact that he had a cut on his hand heightened the suspicion that he may have been involved in this crime.
But on June 5th, they run tests on Cato's fingerprints and on his DNA. Neither matches samples found on the scene. Cato can't be the killer.
Lisa received a couple of calls from unknown callers at the wee hours of Sunday morning, but there were a couple of strange messages left by the 19th caller.
The 19th caller wants to know if Lisa is home on that fateful night.
The weird voice messages were identified as coming from Albert Robinson, who turned out to be a friend of Lisa's, co-worker, and known her for a few years.
A few days later, Lisa's family holds a memorial service in the chapel of her alma mater, Mills College. Also in attendance, none other than Albert Robinson, the man behind the odd-sounding voicemails.
Okay, I love keep upset over them even so go on again. I used to be on this is so for that. Oh God.
Albert Robinson presented a letter to the attendees that was very bizarre. He talked about his love for Lisa, that they were going to get married and they were going to raise a family. A very, very completely different take on their relationship than what Lisa shared with her friends and family.
See, okay, so the guy is saying that, oh, he has this weird plan of actually coming into a relationship with someone who clearly the relationship, I guess, was not progressing as how fast as he thought it was going to go. And maybe in his brain he felt like he talked to Lisa about it. But again, Lisa didn't know anything about this.
Lisa was absolutely not dating Albert. Albert was a person that had always struck me as odd.
When a search warrant was served at his home, detectives found photos of Lisa all over his house.
But once again, the DNA and fingerprints failed to match, eliminating Robinson and dealing another major blow to the investigation.
No information was coming in as to who or why anybody would want to kill Lisa, and they definitely hit a dead end.
10 years after Lisa Valdez's murder, her case remains shelved. But Inspector Schultes always kept it in the back of his mind.
And then on September 2nd, 2011, I got a phone call from the state, the DNA laboratory, the CODIS laboratory. Here's the good news. You've got the hit. It's all the markers. Every single peak is matching.
After 10 long years sitting on ice, the case finally heats up.
The DNA was in the database for all these years, and it finally matched to a person named Anthony Quinn Hughes. Ronan called me at 9 o'clock at night, and he said, Anthony Quinn Hughes' right middle finger was on that toilet seat. That was just icing on the cake, because now it's 2 pieces of key evidence.
Detectives review Lisa's answering machine and find that Hughes had left a message after the murder.
It was nondescript and nothing really unusual about it, except for the fact that he made it after she was already dead on May 18th.
Did detectives make a crucial error by overlooking the message from Hughes?
In my view, the detectives at the time blew it by not going far enough through. Lisa's information on her answering machine. They only went up to 19 people and researched them.
And Hughes was the 22nd caller. Investigators also find what appears to be an old contact for Hughes in Lisa's address book.
They contacted me in the middle of the night, and I asked them to bring Hughes to a homicide. When we showed him a picture of Lisa Valdez and asked him, do you recognize this person? Anthony Quinn Hughes said no. And then I asked him, so you don't know Lisa Valdez? And then he did a double take, shook his head, and he said, oh yeah, we dated in high school. And then we hit him with the evidence and particulars of the case.
DNA from you was found in Lisa's apartment from 1998. Okay.
That's 10 years, guys. Okay, remember, 10 years has passed, right? Meaning that, yes, they kept dating in high school, but this is 2011, right? From 1990, right, is what they were talking about. And while you remember, I may not remember, that's still a pretty long time to actually be able to pin something against somebody else. And both of these guys seem to have an issue with this woman who apparently was not very much into them. You know, this guy here broke up. They broke up, right? Clearly. She might have dated this other wacko weird job. However, they never stated that, so he might just have an auto obsession of wanting to date her, didn't feel adequate enough, and so then decided, hey, look, I'm gonna do this, right? Because a lot of guys who never get hit on always end up being the person, well, not always, but a lot of times actually end up being something that they feel that they want to be something where some people or some women will do a double take and look, but if you're not anything to look at, yeah, you're gonna be looked over, and you might want to be super in love with somebody, but by the way you look, just born into the world with, or, you know, action-wise, right? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be up to you how you live your life. However, that's also going to be a determining factor of if a woman's going to watch you or not, right?
You could have been, but you don't remember.
I'm willing.
What is this all about?
Okay.
Anthony, you know what it's all about. You know very well that she's not alive anymore.
No, I don't.
You can go ahead and cry, you can get emotional, and it's good. It's good.
Taking something right with me.
Absolutely. And I thought that he was about to write out a confession. He asked for a pen and a pad. He was bent over and he's like ready to write. And instead of writing, he took the pen to his neck and his stomach in front of us and just went into like a little tizzy.
I want to die.
You don't want to die.
I want to die.
You don't
guys
wanna-
are trying to pin something on me.
No,
I
we're
want
not
to
gonna
die.
pin anything on you. You know what will happen when you, Anthony.
Die.
What was going through my head was, why would he do this if he wasn't guilty? If he did in fact not have anything to do with her murder, how is it possible that he would be taking his life now? He wants to die now. It was about 11 o'clock on Saturday morning when I told my partner, Kevin, we still got to find Lisa's mom, Helen Valdez, and we got to tell her in person after all those years of not knowing. It was very, very emotional. And I get emotional thinking about it, just remembering how much it meant to her.
For some reason, Anthony Quinn Hughes decided to murder his old friend, Lisa Valdez. Exactly why remains a mystery.
During the early arraignments, Hughes walked in confident, haughty, arrogant, with attitude, right? And then during the trial, he was a very meek demeanor, hunched over, with a Bible in his hand and wearing a cross around his neck. So that's all, that's all an act.
The jury finds Anthony Quinn Hughes guilty of second-degree murder of Lisa Valdez.
Yeah, so you still don't understand why he liked her. As an old friend, right? So that would mean
3 miles shy of the Arkansas border, this is the neighborhood 13-year-old Shannon Capers calls home.
Okay, so we will not get into the second one, but the motive still remains a mystery, why he would want to kill his old friend. Well, I can't keep saying that, but, so unaliving his old friend, right? While you know for reasons unbeknownst to us, that would mean then that is an emotional issue, right? It's an emotional, where if you're saying you want to unalive your own self because you unalive your friend, right? That still might be a mental health issue right there. We don't know what happened with him, right? There are two weirdos, right? One was deeply involved mentally, psychotically, in his own mind, right? Where he felt like they were gonna get married and blah, 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 but Lisa didn't know anything about that. And so then this Anthony guy who decided to unalive his friend, which means that, we still don't know, but he's still guilty, yes, being caught, and being able to try to take the pen and try to unalive himself, right? However, no matter how many times you act out being innocent, you're still not innocent. You still did a crime. You still did something that is still questionable at best, and we still never know what he was thinking. However, yes, he will be probably remaining behind bars because he's unalived his friend for unbeknown reasons to us, while we may be extremely curious as to probably why, because we as people want to always figure everything out. We always want to know the why, the what, the when, the where, the how, the who, the shenanigans, hocus pocus, who, the which, that, right? We're trying to also figure out, could it be that he wanted to get back with her? I don't know. I mean, he never said that, but, in his mind, he might. I don't know. So, with that being said, we're gonna wind down the stream. And we're gonna just talk about, again, how that person, right, Anthony, right, has a mental health issue. Mental health right now in this country is mind-bogglingly high. Why? Because we always want to hush-hush things. We want to hush-hush about SEX. We want to hush-hush about women's period. But then when you have a child, oh, congratulations, good for you, but you already know how you did it, right? So if you're already saying, you know, I'm pregnant, well, guess what? You did the bang-bang with somebody. Simple. You did the bang-bang, you opened up the bang-bangs. I mean, what else are you going to do? Now, you can get it incessant, right? You can pay somebody to insert, right? But most of the time, a lot of people want to be held, met with sterile tips and, you know, stuff like that. However, a lot of times, I don't know. So by being mentally perturbed, these people live lives, they get jobs, stuff like that. But if you don't show any signs of something being wrong, do you believe that you'll be able to find closure for yourself, right? Closure, not in the lead, not always sweet, not always front, those are cute. Okay. We also have to determine whether or not rightfully somebody deserves a job, right? I'm not saying that people should not deserve a job. I'm just saying that people who, like me, who are trying desperately to get a job, I mean, that Anthony guy looks straight up like a normal, regular person. He was capable. I think he was capable of making a friend of his life, her life, right? And also almost his life too. However, he was able to get somewhere, eventually behind bars, but he was still able to hold a job, right? Just the stability and statistics don't always match up, don't always line up to what is actually necessary to actually be able to hold somebody who has a disability to the highest standard, right, of what the cause is, right? So by being unable to figure out what exactly it is up to that person or up to that sort of gesture, right? We're trying to figure out exactly what it means to be disabled. I mean, you can be mentally disabled, you can be physically disabled. But will you be able to actually get a job, get housing, right? Because this, like that little squat, is just as much a hassle to take care of as slumlords than it is a normal, regular person probably be able to do. So in that area, I don't want to be like the rest of y'all. But in other areas, will it be fathomable to comprehend something that we are saying that is not comprehensible, right? I'm not sure. You guys can all hit me up and be like, you know, tell me what you think you can, you know, tell me if I'm wrong. But if you like this series, this is called Disabled Sleuthing, Cold Case Files. And I shall hit you up. Probably next week. I only do this once a week, but I do little mini ones throughout the week. I go to TikTok. Marie Johnson, I believe. I'm not really on that. I do have a YouTube channel, which I'm on, the Coach Constant Show. I do have a podcast, Spotify, More Than Ups podcast. I also have Crystal Tees I'm going to get back into. I am a disabled author, writer, and advocate. I'm trying to be, I'm a paralegalist. If not something along those lines, I might be able to figure out exactly what's next.